So right now we've been given a little bit of information on what the Arasion Sex members black magic does. It seems to be similar to like how kind of Slayer magic is, where you take a normal straight like attribute, you apply the whatever type of thing you're becoming and their attribute and their power to it, and that's becoming a new variant. Dragon fire, devil ice, just anything around there. And it seems to be the similar to that with black magic, is you were just making this kind of corrupted version of it. And Blade, we've only given the first ability from it. I imagine a black magic sword is going to have more than one ability, but he has this first thing with his what he calls black slashing magic. Is his attacks are soundless, like his blade doesn't produce any sound, which I wonder exactly what extent that really kind of goes about, because with him, if his opponent doesn't end up being Cobra for like the long run, I feel like it's got to be either Gray or Suzaku. I think just the style he does, because he did the sword draw style, like not in full, but he still does it when he goes and he fights Cobra. Like he seems to do kind of like a mixture of it, but he keeps his sword out a little longer rather than Cobra, or not rather than Cobra, rather than Suzaku. But I don't know. I think it'd be really cool to see two of these type of guys fight, but at the same time, it's like, if Suzaku does it, then what's Cobra gonna do? Is Cobra's character just gonna be for this part and he's not gonna be for the next bit? Because Cobra, I would be fine with that, because I personally, I would like to see Suzaku a bit more, but I wouldn't be mad at it because I like Cobra and I would like to see where Cobra's character goes from here. And I imagine this is going to be the only time we're going to see much with Cobra, but I also don't want the Arasion Sex to just all lose here. I don't imagine they're all going to lose at this point, especially because right now it seems like none of them are winning their Arasion Space fights. None of them really have any, I can't say like for certain, but at least as that we know of, pre-existing trump cards that like get them a spot of, you get your opponent locked into a point and you actually can get the opening, and then you can get this attack off, and if it gets off, you win. Kind of like when Lucy fought Mimi and she got Eronometry off. It's like, yeah, it's a difficult enchant to do, but it's like, if you can get it off, then you can get it off, and it's this super powerful attack. So it's like the same thing with any of the Arasion Seis. I don't really see what they can do. I don't think Merity is going to be able to sense link onto anybody and just like kill Gate. I also think Gate is like going to be the one that's the most dangerous out of them besides Zero, but we'll see. Blade, though, Blade's abilities, as we were given, we only saw him do a couple attacks when he first went up against Cobra. The thing is, though, and I'm just pulling up the chapter just to kind of skim at least over the little bits where it showed Cobra and Blade fighting, because it just doesn't look at any point in their favor to where he's doing well. Like he constantly has that kind of sword draw style a little bit more than now that I remember, because I don't think in 173 we see them fight, because 173 is mostly with Ferris and Ignia, and we see Wed and everybody just getting a bit, and we got to see what's going on with Diablos, but then we didn't even get to really see Diablos for very long. We kind of just got back to everything else, making me as the one of a handful Scullion fans really sad. But with that, you look at where he's at, and he just seems that like his sword, up until this point, he was just doing swordsmanship, and I would assume there's like a level of your ability they're using, but until he kind of got into what I would consider at least the pose that we had first seen, because if Cobra had seen him do this pose where he's just like, yeah, my attacks don't produce sound, he does this cool big slash attack, I would assume that Cobra would have been like, oh, he's doing that attack again, but he didn't. So as it was for their fight, I don't even think he's been going really that serious so far. And the two of them, it's like I love the idea of Suzaku fighting this guy or Gray, but at the same time, it's like I want Cobra to have some work, because Cobra's such a long going character. But with Blade's whole setup right now, it looks a little rough, and I would imagine, like I said, I don't think it's just going to be my blade doesn't produce sound. I assume there's going to be stuff like my attacks, like when he slashes something, it does like some negative effect, kind of like Jerome's curse sword, where it will rust stuff away and like erode other attacks and blades. So maybe blade will be able to like cut somebody and apply a you know, some form of damage over time ability or some form of debuff. But he right now, I wonder really if what everybody's general consensus of what is the most interesting member out of the new members of the Wrath Beyond Sex. I don't know if people would pick Zero as much as like some of these fancy new guys. I personally still love Zero, but I think characters that's like Blade and Gate have a lot of appeal to them just because of like, you know, where they stand out amongst other characters, and it's just a cool style adding into the verse. But right now, I feel like Blade wouldn't surprise me if he was the most popular after the most recent chapter, and probably the next time we see more of this fight, because he's just able to give off this cool swordsman kind of setup. As of right now, I will say Cobra I don't think is going to beat him. Now Cobra could show up with, you know, he could just gain some form of boost and surprise just the general tempo of the fight. But as of right now, I think it'd be a fight that he would need to have interrupted, and then between now and the next time he runs into Blade, that he figures out a way to, you know, get stronger or figure out a way to advance his techniques, or, you know, something that he could, that will turn the tide of battle in their next one, instead of just going into a fight with the exact same layout and, what a surprise, getting the exact same results. So as of right now, I would say Blade's pretty cool. His whole general design, I still think he reminds me of a Stern Ritter. I think he just looks really neat. The colors behind each of them in their pictures all look really cool on volume 19's cover. I wonder if that relates to anything. But with that, I'm mostly hoping just to get locked in on one of these fights soon, so we can see a good demonstration of them, because we don't really have any of them existing without the black magic influence. We don't have it like where it's like, I'm trying to think of like a magic that we see a lot of. I don't know, I guess like telepathy, and then what, you have black telepathy magic, or you have like I'm trying to think of who's like a well, I guess like apparently it's demonic or black demonic magic, or was it demonic black magic is what Damon called it. It should have just been a version of like, you know, black card magic similar to Kana, so I could have switched over in full to the Kana side agenda to just see how she does there. But as of right now, Blade's powers, like I said, really cool, but still very unknown. I would like to imagine that the snake motif isn't just on like the idea of silent, but it's gonna have something to do with like poisons, or, you know, movement, you know, some form of maybe like stealth and weird things for Blade. Because I think it'd be cool if he doesn't have some form of negative crazy effect that he slaps onto you the second he, you know, gets his blade. If it has lots of utility things that combine with the swordsmanship, like if he just gains like weird styles of movement and like extra, I don't know, just like, you know, you think of any video game where you get some movement ability, then it gets enhanced. You know, give him multiple of those, so he's just this super weirdly agile swordsman that also has these abilities that he can just drop that make it really hard to deal with his attacks at all. We'll see. You know, if his Aetherius form looks sleeker, I will be even happier. I'm hoping some form of like, kind of like Snake Ulquiorra type thing, but we'll see. Anyway, other than that, comment below, tell me your thoughts are hopefully soon, because these are going to be like my kind of like beta versions of each of the members of the Wrath Beyond Sex, because with Fire and Flame, I feel like except for probably the Signario sisters, I can make it decent, kind of more so decent to the low ends, and then understanding obviously it's like Lekka with Fire Magic, we just don't know exactly what the weird trait about it is that Natsu was talking about. But with these guys, for most part, are going to be relatively new. I mean, it's like slashing magic, but like, okay, that just sounds like you're using slash attacks. Oh, black slashing magic. Okay, cool. That definitely gives me a lot of narrowed down options. But anyway, other than that, tell me your thoughts are about this. Tell me your thoughts are about just generally with the members of the Erasion Sex, but primarily for this one, talk about Blade. You know, what would you think would be really cool as an ability on his sword? Because I don't think that any of the abilities that we saw in this chapter were their only ones. Otherwise, these guys I don't think would be very powerful. It's like with Bird, you literally just AoE the area and that's it. That's the only thing it would take. He's got to have more than there than just, you know, oh yeah, let me show my opening trick. That again, that's an assumption. It could just be like two other attacks, or not two other attacks, two other abilities, and that's it. But again, I have my doubts on that, just because the whole thing about them being touched by the abyss of black magic just seems like these guys are going to be relatively fair bosses, I would assume. Maybe one of them falls here, but who knows exactly what goes on beyond beyond where we're at, because like the very next chapter, I'm trying to remember exactly where we left off, because what was the last chapter? Because we had just the general fights, and then Natsu showed up with Zero, because I was trying to think of like what happened at the very end, and Zero was folding Midnight, as I assumed. One thing just as I wonder is like when he's using the little flex as a thing, I wonder if he was planning at some point to use Genesis Zero, but I don't know. Either way, this one though, like I said, mostly to Blade, mostly speculation ones, and kind of just chit-chatting about it. And the next one will kind of more break down like the abilities and stuff that he's got once we have a full idea of what he has, at least in base, or at least understanding his character, and we could talk more about him. Other than that, bye.